Thanks very much. Thanks everyone for sitting in on, and thanks very much for the RIU for putting on the fantastic conference. Been some great companies here, and we're very happy to be part of it. So yes, Caprice Resources, high-grade gold base metal projects, relatively early stage through to some quite advanced exploration. A lot of upside, but significantly undervalued. Sorry, I'm just trying to get the clicker working. There we go. Usual disclaimer, competent persons. Corporately, the key things to note, obviously, like most gold juniors, we've tracked sideways for the past few months. It's the nature of the beast, that's the way things are. The other key thing to note, we've got a really tight capital structure, less than 70 million shares on issue, which is pretty impressive considering that the company's been listed for over 3 years. And an EV of just under 12 mil. So, as I said, I think we're pretty good value, which of course is every managing director's job to say that, but generally I think we are. In terms of board and management, good mix of grey hair experience, corporate and also on-ground knowledge. David Church is a lawyer, very corporate. Myself, geo and finance background, likewise Adam Meathie and Mick Caruso joined the board just over 12 months ago when we invested in the Island Gold Project, and probably the most important person on the page is Chris Allshot, my exploration manager. He's the geological brains behind the work that we're doing on all our projects. So a snapshot of the assets that we have, as I said, historical high grades, but they've all had relatively limited exploration. So we've got the Murchison gold projects, obviously the Murchison region. We've got the high-grade Island Gold Project, and we've also got CUDDINGWARRA and Big Bell South that we acquired a couple of months ago. All had relatively minimal exploration and strategic location. They're all close to 2 processing plants. And there's Northampton, which is a polymetallic base metals play. Historically had very high-grade production, but we think it's been a bit of a sleeper. It hasn't really had any modern on-ground exploration for probably about 40 years, but we think it's a really good potential for an emerging base metals story. So in terms of the Murchison, zooming in a little bit, as you can see here, a tier 1 location, over 15 million ounces mined and discovered to date, fantastic geology, structures, etc. And the Island Gold Project in the centre, small scale but high grade production at the turn of last century. As I touched on before, strategic location where we've got the Great Northern Highway going through the Island Gold Project. It's within 50 kilometres of 2 processing plants, easy access by road, which is Tuckabianna and Mount Magnet. And we're also pretty close to the Musgrave Lena Break a Day, and also the Musgrave Evolution JV, which wraps around us to the west and to the north. Zooming in a little bit further on the Island Gold Project, this is our most advanced project. It's, as I said, it was mined at the turn of last century with some very high grade deposits. We only acquired it just over a year ago it's been in private hands for the past 25 odd years. It has high-grade gold outcropping and banded iron formations, and these were the things that were mined. There's probably about 9 or 10 of these, striking roughly north-south. So it's pretty well mineralised. And then there's the lake. So we've split the Island Gold Project into the island component and Lake Austin. 100% of the exploration to date has been on the island. Obviously, Lake Austin, it's a salt lake. Up until recent times, it's been relatively cost prohibitive to explore on it. However, the geology and the structures are still fantastic. So it's a high priority for us to do the maiden drill program underneath the lake, but we'll get onto that shortly. So we recently completed the biggest RC program that's been done to date on the island. We did 83 holes for over 8,000 metres. Like everybody in the industry, we're still waiting on assay results. We've only got about 50% of them to date. Frustrating, but look, everyone's in the same boat, as we know. The winner out of that was definitely our Vadrians Hill deposit. One, because we got all the assays back for that rather than randomly, but 10 metres at 16, including 6 to 26, which was the deepest hole, which is only about 100 metres down vertically, 7 at 3.7, and some others there, as you can see, 2 at 9.3 and 7 at 2. So we've now got 4 of these high-grade positions within the project. We think there's a lot more, but again, the remaining 50% of the assays will tell. Still large areas that need to be tested on the island itself. This is a picture of a drone photo from the last drilling program that we did. We had the 2 rigs on site. There was Strike and the local NDRC. Really good snapshot of the difference in terrain between the lake and the island itself. You can see there's a biff ridge that they're both targeting. This is looking southeast over Vadrians north. So Vadrians Hill, these are the results that I just talked about. There were some low-grade hits that were close to surface that we followed up. As you can see, 10 metres at 16 was the deepest hole we've done, roughly 100 metres vertical. Still open down plunge and very much open at depth. It's got a strike of roughly 100 metres, but obviously we'd like to think there's a lot more to come. And that'll be the focus of the next round of RC that we do next year. Baxters, this has been around for a little while. You can actually see there's some historic shafts that are on that. You can see there's been a fair bit of drilling up around the shafts, which was largely done by the private owners. They were looking at a small scale toll treatment setup, which is obviously not something that we're looking at doing. We're looking at growing the asset base and the mineralisation just to see how big it is. So this is a little bit more advanced. It's over 200 metres strike. It's got a northerly plunge, and as you can see, there's some high-grade shoots within it. And last but definitely not least, there's New Orient. This is at the northernmost end of the project. This is more shear related, where the other 2 were more fold nose related. As you can see, this was drilled pretty heavily by the private owners, again, looking at a small scale production position, still open at depth, still open at strike. So again, more for us to follow up there. Now, apologies for this slide, it's pretty intense, but it's actually really quite instructive. So on the left-hand side is a release that was put out by Musgrave in October. They've had some fantastic drill results. This is actually part of the Musgrave Evolution joint venture. Key thing to note is the yellow or orange dashed lines there, which are the primary controlling structures. So they've got a northwest-southeast orientation. Sitting above that is quite a large dispersion halo with some supergene enrichment. Now, why that's important is you can see on the right-hand side that sits less than a kilometre from our ground. And you can see the orientation of the southwest-northeast structures there, and we've got those same structures on our ground. So those structures we think are associated with the mineralisation that we've found to date, and more importantly, those structures continue underneath the lake. So we've got gold on the island, we've got the same structures that the Musgrave Evolution has got, and they continue underneath the lake. So the obvious drill target is to test underneath the lake. So that's what we're looking at doing in the new year. We were planning to have a tracked air core rig trundle around and do a lot of this drilling, but again, like everyone, drill rigs are in high demand, particularly specialist rigs. So we will be using a track-mounted rig when we can get hold of one. But in the interim, what we're looking at doing is the southern portion, roughly the southern third of the Lake Austin component of the Island Gold Project is actually on land. So we're going to be doing some land-based air core, testing those structures, and that'll be kicking off early in the new year. So that's really, really exciting. Now, no drill testing into this area whatsoever. Right structures, and we've obviously got gold pretty close by. So we're pretty keen to get this underway. CUDDINGWARRA and Big Bell South, we picked up about 3 or 4 months ago. This is from Golden State Mining. We wanted to expand our land package in this part of the world, give us a little bit more critical mass, but not just pick up moose pasture. So we really like the structures and the geology of these 2 projects. They're much earlier stage. They've had a few soil sampling and a little bit of air core done on it. CUDDINGWARRA is very close to the CUDDINGWARRA shear. fantastic structures, and Big Bell South is the interpreted southern extension of the Big Bell stratigraphy. So we'll be doing some target generation on this and working this up in due course, but we'll look to have boots on ground sometime in the new year. Northampton, as I said, we think this has probably been a little bit of a sleeper in the past. You can see the green tenements that we've had. They were in the company when the company listed about 3 years ago. Very high grade historic area. Over 100 of these deposits have been mined. High grade base metals dominated by lead, but also copper and zinc. A little bit different to most WA-based base metals deposits in that they're structurally related. So understanding the structural controls of these things is pretty important. Chris has done, my exploration manager, has done some fantastic sort of large-scale targeting work, and we think that there's good potential to find more of these deposits and slightly different style of deposits as well, related to the structures. The ones that have been mined, all 100 or so deposits, they basically stick out of the ground. As you go further to the east, the regolith, or the weathering profile, increases. So the likelihood of these actually outcropping is much less. So we think there's good potential to find more deposits as we go further east. Plus, we've got a slight refinement on the mineralising concept. So we were quite surprised when we saw that all of this ground was free. So we've just applied for these exploration licenses. So the red tenements that you can see there are applications which we only put in about 2 weeks ago. So we're pretty pleased to be able to get this massive swag of land. We've increased our land holding from about 150 square Ks to about 1,100 square Ks. So whilst the applications will be doing work in the background, but pretty rare that you can get this quality land so close to historic high-grade production areas. So that's us in a nutshell. As I said, we're pretty good value, 11 million sort of EV. As you can see, we've got a lot of work going on. We've had the RC program, still got 50% of the results to come back. We'll be doing air core drilling on the lake, which will be the maiden program there. We'll be working on CUDDINGWARRA, Big Bell South, and of course Northampton will be looking to do geophysics on that and then refining targets in due course, and look like everybody, ongoing assessment of new projects. So we think we've got a great sort of risk-return ratio. The downside from a 11 million EV relative to the success that we could have is pretty well balanced. So that's a pretty story. Thank you.